This time on Past Deadline, this week's news in 60 seconds, and we talk with podcaster Brendan Valentine about the CM Life podcast, Raving Geeks. I'm your host, the other Ben Jodway, and this is Past Deadline, your behind-the-scenes look at Central Michigan life. Here's this week's news in 60 seconds. CMU student employees are now eligible for vaccines. They do not have to have underlying medical conditions to receive the vaccine. If you're a student employee, you can go to the CMU Health website and fill yourself out as a frontline/essential worker, and then as an education/university employee. The May 2021 commencement will be in person, outdoors in the Kelly Short Stadium, according to his Twitter post from CMU. It will include both 2020 and 2021 graduates. Academic Senate announced the recipients for the CMU Excellence in Teaching Awards. They also nominated student Eric Urbaniak for the Newman Civies Fellowship Award. The CMU Excellence in Teaching Awards have been handed out since 1985. You can find a full list of the teachers awarded and the rest of the stories at cm-life.com. That was this week's news in 60 seconds. Up next, we talk to Brendan Valentine about his podcast, Raving Geeks. All right, so Brendan Valentine, thank you so much for being here on Past Deadline. And we have a lot of cool podcasts here at CM Life. So just give me a little rundown about Raving Geeks. What is it about?
Well, thank you very much for having me, Benjamin. I'm happy to be here. Well, Raving Geeks is just kind of it's kind of like CM Life's weekly pop culture podcast, but we really dive into like things that we consider like geek culture, like movies, TV shows, video games, comics, stuff like that. And that's like kind of our specialty and our niche. So some of the episodes we've done, like most recently, is like we recapped WandaVision and gave some expectations for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which are the big like MCU titles coming up. We talked about let's see what was 2 weeks ago. Sometimes I get excited for like different episodes. We do things that are jumbled together. This week's recording to give anyone like something to look forward to. We're talking about collections, like, and how that's difficult to do in the pandemic. And then our first episode of the month of March was like celebrating March's reading month, and we talked about like current books and past books that like have really like inspired us to become geeks. So it's just stuff like that.
Hi, is it just MCU stuff?
Not just MCU. So Marvel Cinematic Universe, DC Extended Universe, Star Wars, any like big fandom is like fair game, and anything that like kind of loosely relates to that as well. So like we have plans to talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender with Avatar Studios coming into like effect, but we're waiting for like big news to really delve into that. Each of our co-hosts, because I'm one of the co-hosts, but there are two others, Hope Gooderl and Isaac Hunter. Each of us kind of have our own specialties where we'll kind of take charge. I'm kind of like Star Wars, DC Universe, that's my specialty. Isaac is like Lord of the Rings and Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. And Hope kind of takes charge for like Harry Potter. She also like all three of us have MCU knowledge, which makes it easy to talk about. But she also was like Percy Jackson and a lot of theatrical titles as well.
For sure. So we've had Raving Geeks for a while, but I know that when you and the other co-hosts came on board, a lot of things started to change a little bit. How did what changed?
So before Hope, Isaac, and I were brought on, Raving Geeks. First of all, Raving Geeks was in person. Yeah. With the pandemic, everything's kind of been shifted with having to be on Zoom everything, and we're hoping to kind of go back to what Raving Geeks used to be once, with our own little changes, once the pandemic is over. But there was a lot. It was really specific on like Marvel, DC, and Star Wars was what it was advertised as, and those were the main topics that were talked about. Now we've kind of expanded it a little bit to kind of make it more open to like a wider audience. To try and, because there's geeks all over campus, but like just because you say like there's a lot of like terms like that, like geek, nerd, gamer, everyone has like this stereotype, but it's a lot broader than those titles are stereotypically like made out to be. So we're trying to reach that broader audience. So like to like get rid of like the gatekeeping around like that kind of culture.
All right, so you said when you were coming in person that you had your like little twists on stuff. What were those little twists?
So we kind of kept the same like general formula of like we talk about news and we have our main topic and we give recommendations about like different media that we recommend. Our twists are kind of just like right now personal quirks, but we're hoping to start doing things like bonus episodes soon. Once we can kind of get out to public, where we'll like do quick 20-minute like vids of like, hey, here's something geek related happening on campus that we're trying to get out to. I know they used to do episodes where they go to the comic book store, so that it would kind of look similar to that, but we wouldn't exclusively be going to the comic book store here in Mount Pleasant. We could expand our horizons and go to different geeky companies within the Mount Pleasant area, or different student organizations that kind of fall in this umbrella of topics that we'd like to talk about.
Yeah, so what student organizations are you looking at?
We haven't reached out to anyone yet.
Okay.
So if people I can throw out some names that we'd like to talk to. But if anyone from those organizations hears this, we haven't talked to you yet. We're just waiting until it's safe for us to contact you because we don't want to mess anything up with the pandemic. But we'd love to go watch a Quidditch practice with the Quidditch team. I don't know how to play Dungeons and Dragons, so I know there's at least one official Dungeons and Dragons at CMU club, but I know there's a couple of non-official ones around campus too. So I'd love to get involved with them. And then once they can start meeting in person again, I'd love to see if CMU's Video Game Club would like to have a quick expose by the Raving Geeks.
Awesome, yeah. So you talked about what plans are in store for Raving Geeks right now. Is there anything else you have planned coming up soon?
Coming up soon. Let's see. Am I allowed to? Yeah, I can talk about this. So not this upcoming episode, but 2 weeks from now, we will have a special guest coming onto our podcast that actually used to work as a designer in the Disney parks before the pandemic hit. So a little insider information. We can't talk about anything that hasn't been released yet, but you kind of get a little behind the scenes look if you're a big fan of Animal Kingdom, Downtown Disney, which is now called Disney Springs, Epcot, and that area down in Orlando. So that could be something to look forward to.
Yeah, awesome. That's really cool. Are you hoping to bring on even more special guests?
Yes, guests is something that we're really hoping to do more. It's both easier and harder given the pandemic. It's easy because we can just invite them in for Zoom meetings, but it's also harder because we aren't seeing people on a daily basis that we might want to bring in. I know this person that we're bringing in as a guest personally, and I reached out to them, which was fortunate for us, but we aren't necessarily meeting new people or able to go out to places where we might find people that would really want to be a guest on the podcast. So again, as the weather warms up and we can do more things outside socially distanced, and as the vaccine gets distributed, then we should be able to do more of that stuff.
Awesome. So tell me, what is your favorite episode that you've made so far?
My favorite episode was probably the one we did 2 weeks ago, where we talked about the new announcement for the Pokemon games, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and Pokemon Legends Arceus. I'm a big Pokemon fan, so being able to kind of geek out about that announcement and discuss my theories with Isaac and Hope and see what they thought about it, that was really fun for me to film.
That's awesome. So I guess now that Raven Geeks now you guys are picking up steam. If you could change anything about Raven Geeks right now, what would it be?
If I could change anything about Raven Geeks right now, I hadn't given much thought about that. Realistic things, or things if there was no pandemic, what I would be doing.
The craziest idea, just something that you'd love to just do.
I would love to get a Raving Geeks, not a live event where we meet people, but I'd love to interact more with the audience. Obviously we can't meet face to face now, but whether we do something on Twitch, because there's a lot of geek stuff that you can just kind of stream. So if we can get that going, I think that would be really cool. That's my crazy dream. Get more audience interaction would be the change that I look for.
Okay, so is that like panels, or just hey, I want to play a game with the geeks, stuff like that?
I think it can look like a lot of things. Panel would definitely be a thing if people wanted to come in and ask us. I think that honestly would be a great idea for an episode if we can get some people to commit to coming in as an audience to ask questions. I think it could look like playing with audience members, playing video games with audience members, maybe live reacting to like let's say like a new Falcon and the Winter Soldier comes out this week. Like if we're like, all right, we watch it with the geeks, we're all going to watch it at the same time. So stuff like that.
Yeah, awesome. So like a little commentary track of a bunch of people. That would be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So, I guess also like, so why should people watch Raving Geeks?
Um, that is a really good question. But I think besides just like information about like geek culture, all of our hosts are really passionate about what we talk about, and I feel like that is kind of like that's our thing. Our personalities kind of come through when we get excited. I know for me, like specific topics that we've talked about, like Pokemon, MCU, stuff like that, I get really like hyped up, and like if you're watching it on YouTube, you can kind of see in my body language, and I'm sure you can hear it in my voice. But like if you like to hear people talk about stuff you like, and you like to like hear information about it, and like kind of you can always like commentary back with it, then Raving Geeks is definitely your thing. If you like theorizing, just like thought experiments about like your fandom, your little sect of geek culture, then like Raving Geeks is definitely the podcast for you.
Awesome. So, where can people watch or listen to Raving Geeks?
Raving Geeks can be found anywhere you really anywhere you listen to podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and then on the CM Life website, www.cm-life.com. It's mixed in with all the other CM Life podcasts. So if you're a listener of Past Deadline, same spot you're listening to right now would work just fine.
All right. What are your socials, if you have it?
Yeah. You can find us at Raving Geeks on Twitter and Facebook, and then we also have a TikTok account. I believe it's also at Raving Geeks. That one's been like slow rolling because we're trying to find trends, but like all three of us are like, what do we want to do? And then we end up like stalling and not doing anything. So it's getting up there, but we don't have like a million TikToks yet. We've got like a handful, but we're trying to hop on those trends.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to say before I let you go?
I'd love to like have anyone come listen to the podcast. Make sure if you do like to comment. I love that audience interaction. But thank you again so much for having me on today. I'm very happy you invited me on and asked me such great questions.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Brendan. We had a good quick chat. Like I said, if you want to listen to Raving Geeks, it's on www.cm-life.com. It should be under multimedia and podcasts. All right, Brendan, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Have a good one. You've been listening to Past Deadline, a production of the CM Life Podcast Division. Every story referenced in this episode can be found at our website, cm-life.com. To keep up with us, follow us on social media at Central Michigan Life on Instagram, at CM Life on Twitter, or like and follow Central Michigan Life Facebook page. I've been your host, the other Ben Jodway, and this has been Past Deadline. Until next week, so long and stay informed.